Welcome back to The Standard. To Ralph Klein, spirituality and Aboriginal rights have been an important part of his politics and his core beliefs. In this second part of our interview, the former Premier also shares his thoughts on multiculturalism in Canada and what to do with illegal immigrants. Going on in Canada, too, in issues of multiculturalism. How do you, I mean, you've had experience on that. Is multiculturalism working in Canada?
I believe multiculturalism is working in Canada. Probably the best example can be seen in British Columbia, right here in the lower mainland, where you have Sikhs and the Chinese community and the Korean community and the Vietnamese community, and there seems to be a togetherness. There seems to be a sense of belonging and a sense of community.
And yet some people would think that some of these communities have just hived off and created little enclaves.
Well, I don't know what I see is a mixture downtown. When I travel downtown Vancouver, I see a tremendous mixture of people who contribute so much to the color and the beauty and the vibrancy that is British Columbia.
Yeah. Related to that issue is obviously the influx of immigrants. Many people think that Alberta is needing laborers to extract.
Well,
where do you stand on the issue of immigration?
Yeah, this is another area where I think that the Prime Minister is showing leadership. And that is the temporary employment program that allows provinces like Alberta and British Columbia to some degree expedite the processing of immigrants, skilled immigrants, who are badly needed in this country.
And yet what that's going to do is it's going to bring a mix, which I think you're suggesting is maybe healthy at some level?
I don't think it's unhealthy.
Okay.
I think it's very healthy.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, you know, if these people even wanted to stay beyond their permitted time, if they're contributing members to society, then they should be allowed to stay. The whole immigration matter should be directed at getting rid of the bad people.
And how do you do that? Because that's easier said than done. I mean, you put people on buses and one-way tickets out of Alberta.
Yeah, we did that, yes.
into BC. But
no, not into BC, but wherever they wanted to go.
Right, right. So how do you deal with these, what is used to call the bad people?
Well, you know, you need to, in my mind anyway, you need to give the immigration authorities more power to deal with the bad people. To
get them out of the country?
To get them out of the country.
And yet
you need the courts to deport these people.
And yet many people claim refugee status. They claim that they're in pain, there's hardship, they've been abused back home, and we don't want to...
Well, you know, and but the proof is in the pudding.
Let me ask you this, because we're talking about immigration, we're talking about multiculturalism. One of the issues that I found so fascinating about your life is your interest in Native spirituality.
Yes.
It's really fascinating. Tell me about how you first got interested in that, because you grew up in the United Church, didn't you?
No.
Or you were exposed to that?
Exposed to, there are no churches on Indian reserves.
But you grew up in a United Church.
I grew up in the United Church.
So how did you get exposed to First Nation spirituality?
It has to do with the media.
Okay.
Many years ago, I don't know if you recall the Berger inquiries or the Berger Commission. There was a judge who was assigned to assess the environmental worthiness of the Alaska or the Mackenzie Valley Pipeline.
Okay.
Many, many years ago. And the First Nations were protesting the line, and of course they made representation at all the locations where the Berger Commission were holding hearings.
And you were in media at the time doing a story.
I was in the media. And Rod Sykes, the then mayor of Calgary, made a statement that I considered to be newsworthy. He said that Native people have no more rights than any other individual. And I thought, well, that's something new. An anthropology professor from the University of Calgary phoned and said, you know, you didn't give coverage to the to what the First Nations people said. And the CRTC, the Canadian Radio and Television Commission, ruled in his favor and said to the television station that I was working for, then you have to do something for First Nations people.
So you were sent out to do a story.
Yeah. So I said, well, the anniversary of Treaty Number 7 is about to be signed. This is about a year away. I think that I'll do a story on what it's like to be a Blackfoot Indian 100 years down the road.
And you ended up staying there for like 10 months or something.
Oh, yes.
Which is quite something. Now you, let me get this straight.
And I got into it, and I made some good friends, and I learned a bit of the language. And
you were in sweat lodges.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
I mean, at every major event, when you were in politics, swearing in as premier, the Olympics, you had First Nations spiritual ceremonies present. Wasn't this the first time a Canadian premier ever had a First Nations spiritual ceremony? They call it, what, the sweetgrass ceremony. Is that what it's called?
Sweetgrass, yeah.
What is that? What is a sweetgrass ceremony?
Well, sweetgrass is a smudge, really. Sweetgrass is something that you can smell, but you can never find it. I can never find it. And they braid it and they put it in a smudge pot, and you bathe yourself with it.
And do you consider yourself that this is your faith? Is First Nations spirituality? Is that your faith?
Yeah, I like spirit. I like things. I'm not a very religious person, but I like Native spirituality.
What practices on maybe a daily, weekly basis would you say, I partake in that?
I only participate when there is a smoke or a sweat or...